Hi everybody, welcome to Lifehacker for the week of August 6th. With me is Adam Dachos.
Hi.
Wisdom Gordon.
Hello.
Thorin Klazowski's going to join us for a bit. I'm Adam Pash. We've got news, we've got downloads, we've got questions to answer. Same as always. Let's get started. So probably the biggest news of last week, Microsoft, who you all know from the Windows operating system, has released a new webmail client called Outlook, of course named for the desktop mail client Outlook, but it's basically like their new push for Hotmail, and it's pretty cool.
It's really nothing like the Outlook desktop client, from what I can see. It's only. I know it's very confusing, but essentially you go to Outlook.com, you can sign up for an email address, and it's you have a web mail client. The thing about it is, it's really good, which is kind of shocking. I mean, we like Hotmail. Hotmail's pretty good. It's the best probably Gmail alternative out there, but Outlook takes it to a whole new level. And for something that's for a service that's brand new, it's kind of packed with pretty sweet features.
Yeah.
I mean, you log in, the interface is extremely clean and well put together. You've got like a Metro interface. It's very efficient with your screen real estate, so you're looking at more of the messages in your inbox and not these big buttons and other stuff. Gmail's gotten a little bit cluttered lately. Yeah. And I'm a Gmail lover, but it's just gotten a little bit too filled with junk. And so Outlook kind of...
It seems like they also, for media, it's got a beautiful Lightbox image viewer.
Yeah, it's got some cool slideshow features and stuff like that. What I really like about it is that it's got a lot of cool kind of shortcut things built in. So when you hover over a message, you have kind of 3 little transparent buttons next to it that you can customize what those buttons do, whether it's like reply all, archive, whatever buttons you use the most. Yeah. It also has keyboard shortcuts. What's really cool about the keyboard shortcuts is that it has, it's built-in keyboard shortcuts, but you can switch it to the keyboard shortcut layouts of Gmail or Yahoo if you're more used to those clients. Mm-hmm. So if you like the J and K for switching between messages instead of the arrow keys, you can switch to that. So the keyboard shortcuts aren't customizable one by one, but you could switch to Gmail's
framework.
Which is a kind of a nice touch. And you can import contact photos and information from Twitter and Facebook, and you can the ads are kind of unobtrusive and really nice. There are a lot of newsletter based features for unsubscribing you from newsletters and doing a bunch of stuff like that, kind of getting rid of Microsoft did a study and they found that spam was no longer an issue for most people, but getting overloaded by the newsletters that you sign up for and kind of want but kind of get cluttered over time. Yeah. So there are a lot of really cool features that deal with that.
It's also interesting just because I feel like it's Microsoft who, you can trust is going to keep it around. Because when new email clients come out, there have been some that have come out over the years that have tried to let's take a fresh look at email, beyond just Gmail. But when they come out, it's generally I don't know who this... email's it's a big step to put your email trust in someone who, but Microsoft, you could make that change to Outlook. However, you still would have to make your change to Outlook, and changing your email address at this point in
such a hassle
is it's very difficult to do.
They have aliases and stuff, so you can get all your Gmail forwarded and send it back out as the Gmail address if you want, or as your Outlook address. I've tried it out a little bit, just to see what it's like, but I kind of do want to give it a bigger shot just because it looks really good. I'm kind of just surprised by it. Not because it's Microsoft or anything, but just because it's such a new service. For how feature-filled it, or for how new it is, it's surprising that it's this feature-filled.
Well, I mean, considering that this is their 3rd iteration of an email service. It's the 3rd attempt that they've made.
Yeah.
I would hope that going into it, they wouldn't be okay, here's another thing that we did. I mean, when they did the redo of Live Mail a couple years ago, I think it was. They had some really good features, but they left out a whole bunch of stuff, and no one adopted it because there were all these things missing. And I think they really kind of had to learn from that mistake this time.
Well, and they learned if they were going to rival Gmail, they were going to have to rival Gmail at launch, or people would see it, forget about it, and never come back to it.
Yep.
So, anyway, even if you're not looking for a new mail client, I'd suggest you go check it out just to see it. It's really cool.
Yeah. right, so another big announcement last week. Hulu, two things happened to Hulu. One, they updated their website. They have a nicer, Chromeless, prettier player, some settings that allow you to sort of customize what your home screen looks like, or the homepage looks like, so it's like things you're actually interested in. And then Hulu Plus made its way to the Apple TV.
Finally.
Which is cool. It's if you've cut cable and you're like really into Hulu, it's $8 a month, and you get it on your Apple TV. It just shows up apparently when I guess they pushed the update. I don't know how that actually worked, but yeah.
I hope that this is a continuing sign of new things coming to the Apple TV, and that maybe one day we'll actually get an app store.
Yeah,
or some choice.
Gizmodo's Brian Barrett had a really smart post last week about it. Basically arguing that like this is sort of the indicator that big things are on the horizon for Apple TV. And you know, obviously the App Store is huge. That would make the Apple TV so popular so quickly.
Be a killer device, yeah.
And actually, it's obviously gonna happen at some point.
Yeah.
It's since the Apple TV first, I guess, since iOS came out, it was clear that the Apple TV was gonna go in that direction. But like, Apple's taking their time for, I'm sure, a number of different reasons.
Yeah.
But it'll be a cool little device once that happens.
Hulu is a pretty big step.
Yeah.
I think that's a whole. I didn't realize that the Hulu selection has actually gotten pretty good. Because I haven't used Hulu in so long that it's a really good, and you know, with that coupled with Netflix and iTunes, you've got, you know, everything you could want to watch.
Just virtually, except for HBO.
Yeah.
Of course, it's not the only device that. I mean, you know, we were talking earlier about Roku.
Mm-hmm.
You can get if you hack together your own media center, you can get like a lot of these things. But regardless,
but it's just so easy.
It's a big step. Yeah. Okay, and then I guess on the web service update front, Amazon updated their music service, and they also updated, or they also released an iPad app for their video streaming service.
Which
again, finally.
Well, okay, so I was actually just having a conversation with a friend of mine about this about 30 minutes ago, on how the iPad app, very pretty. It's nice that it exists. Apparently, there's not a way to search through Amazon's library. Like, you just get a pretty list of stuff and you can tap on it and watch it. But if you want to like look for anything, you can't actually do that.
They're doing it basically the same way that. So when Apple made that change where you can't sell things directly from the app, you have to go through like Apple stuff. So with the Kindle on iOS, they basically were like, all right, we won't sell stuff from the Kindles. People will go to Amazon on their like separately, or they'll go on their computers, they'll buy it, and then it'll just go to their device. And I think from what I've heard, that's sort of the same idea with the Amazon Video stuff, where it's just like there's not much. It's not like you can open it up and be like, what do I want to watch today? Buy that. You actually have to be like, okay, let's go to the web. I found it. Now
it's really frustrating.
Do you have like a queue like in Netflix where you can like add stuff and then that queue shows up on your iPad or something, anything like that? Or is it literally just?
Not that I'm aware of.
I think it probably does show.
So
up.
you have to like go into the iPad web browser and then send it to the app. I don't understand how it works.
I'm assuming, you know, I'm not a big Amazon. I haven't used the app, but I think the way that it works would probably be the same, similar to Kindle though. You sign in on it when you purchase something. Your purchases are available.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's probably cooler here is the Cloud Player update, and it's exciting to me because Amazon was the first. I was really into the idea that Cloud Player existed. And I wanted a streaming service where I could just upload my own stuff.
And to clarify, we're talking about music now. It's the Cloud Player is there, like you install something on your desktop, a utility, it uploads everything to the cloud, and then you can stream it anywhere. The first step is already improved greatly, the uploading everything to the cloud.
Because it'll just scan your music collection, whether you have Windows Media Player or iTunes, or I think there might be another option, but those are the two main ones. And it will scan what you've got and upload it, and then it will match it also, just like iTunes Match does. So it's kind of a combination between what Google Music does in the uploading sense and iTunes Match does in the matching sense. It also only costs $25 a year for unlimited songs, so it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah. So you no longer have to upload your entire library like you used to.
Yeah.
Because that was my one beef with Amazon's cloud player, is that it was good and it was available on, Android. It worked really well, but the uploading took so long, and Google's takes long too, but Amazon's uploader just wasn't very good.
Yeah,
and so it's really nice that it can match most of your stuff, and you don't have to deal with that.
Yeah, and while it's not free like Google's is, it's still, $25 a year is so negligible, and you can actually use it for free for 250 songs. So if you wanted a small collection, you could do that, and I don't think it counts. I don't know if it counts actually anything that you've bought through Amazon. I would hope not. But
no, it doesn't. So that's the real kicker for Cloud Player for me, is that if you buy music from Amazon MP3, it doesn't count against your storage. It just goes straight into your Cloud Player, and it's
separated it. I don't know if that's changed now.
Oh, okay.
So that's
I doubt it. But they're pushing Amazon MP3 so much, and it's a great service. So
yeah, and that's mainly because I buy my music from Amazon, and then I got to bring it into iTunes and all this. It's really
and back up to Google Music.
Yeah, it's like it's going everywhere, and it would be. And I also have ignored Cloud Player for so long because it just wasn't as robust as the other options that I didn't realize they released an official iOS app, and I found that the other day, and I was excited about that. So I think there's a lot of good stuff to. If you've been ignoring it, it's worth looking at again.
Okay, and lastly, we're in the final days of the 30th Olympic Games. And if you've been an obsessive Olympics watcher this year, you've probably been at least occasionally frustrated by NBC's coverage, whether it's like time shifting everything so they're pretending it's live when it's finished 6 hours ago or whatever. But we got frustrated. We worked around it. Thorin Klazowski is going to tell you a little bit about how that worked.
Hey guys, thanks. So watching the live BBC feed of the Olympics is really easy to do with a DNS routing service called Unblock Us. So to start, head over to unblock-us.com, enter in your email address, and that'll give you access to the DNS servers. From there, if you're on Windows, you can download an easy setup software, and it'll automatically set everything up for you. You're good to go. You can do it manual if you want. We have a guide for doing that on the post. Mac users will have to do it manually, but it's really easy to do. Just head into your system preferences, click the network button, select Wi-Fi or Ethernet, depending on which internet connection you're using. Click the advanced button and head over to the DNS tab and enter in the DNS that Unblock Us emailed you. Reboot your computer and you're done. You can watch the Olympics right away, straight from the BBC, and it looks great, streams really well. If you're not happy with DNS servers or you want to use a different method, we have a bunch of different other ways to do it, including proxies and VPNs and SSH tunnels and all types of different stuff. So check out the full post for a ton of information, a full guide on how to do it, and you'll be good to go. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Thorin. I actually did that. I did what Thorin posted about. It literally takes like 3 minutes. It's awesome. And then you can stream anything from the BBC. It's way cool.
That's awesome.
So that's it for news this week. Let's go on to questions. All right, so our first question comes from a caller.
Hey, Lifehacker. I've got a Droid 3 running on Verizon's network. I have unlimited data, and I have an ability to create a Wi-Fi hotspot using my phone's Wi-Fi antenna, but I have to go to Verizon to do it. Is there some hack, mod, or jailbreak that I can use to use my wireless signal from my phone on my laptop without having to connect any wires or tethering? All right, love the show. Thanks.
Okay, so the question is, can you use your Android phone as a Wi-Fi hotspot using your data connection, etc.? Which is, of course, a feature that's built into the phones, but which most carriers disable.
At least in the US.
They disable it unless you pay for it. You can get around that.
We've talked about this for a long time. There are some apps that let you tether via USB without rooting, and for the longest time you had to root your phone to create a Wi-Fi hotspot. And while we love rooting, and while it lets you do a lot of really awesome things, there are some new apps that let you use the built-in tethering feature, a Wi-Fi hotspot, without rooting. The one we featured is called Extended Controls. It's essentially a little widget you can put on your home screen, tap a button, you created a Wi-Fi hotspot. It's super simple. You don't have to root your phone. It's like 99 cents. Dunzo.
Yeah, and just to clarify what's happening here, this functionality is built into your phone. Carriers like Verizon will disable it. So basically when you go in and try and turn it on via your Android settings, there's a hook that'll be like, no, you got to pay for this to do it. All these little widgets do basically is do the same sort of enabling of that hotspot, but they do it through maybe, I guess, what you would call a backdoor, so that your phone isn't like, no, you can't do this, pay for it. It's like, okay, this is what I was made to do. Now, whether or not you should do that is between you and your carrier. They would say no. So, you know,
well,
might
Verizon
want to consider that.
Verizon can't say no now.
Wait, why can't
What's
they?
this?
There was a ruling apparently that they have to allow third-party tethering apps.
Oh.
I'm not sure why no one else is in that position, but Verizon is. So if you're on Verizon, good for you.
Well, there you go. Anyway,
it's one of many solutions.
Totally doable. Okay, our next question comes from an email. Reader Addie writes, I'm a dedicated Google and Android user. When Google Music was in beta, I jumped in and moved all my music online off of iTunes, and I've never been happier. Except, I've created a bunch of new playlists on Google Music, but there's no feature to burn to an audio CD. And there isn't even a sharing feature in the web interface except to post a YouTube video of a song to Google+. This totally kills the idea of making mixtapes for friends. How can I take my music off Google and share it with friends? And the short answer is you really can't. They don't have a good method. I mean, what you can do is you can download individual songs from Google Music. You could send them that way.
You can download a full album too.
You can
at
download
once.
Full albums at once, but there's no option to
That's
download a full playlist at once.
I have not tried that.
We can check right now. But also, this is one of the weaknesses of like a service like Google Music. It would be awesome if they allowed you to do something like that, to like share a playlist or whatever. They don't. It's one of the benefits, on the other hand, of something like Spotify or Rdio. And no, it doesn't appear though you can download playlists.
Nope.
Yeah. So it is one of the benefits of something like Spotify and Rdio, where you can make a playlist, you can share that playlist with friends. The catch with those, of course, is that your friends need to be willing to use those services to actually take advantage of it, which often they won't, because there's, that's what happens when there's that sort of fragmentation in user base. So that can be difficult.
Well, I gotta plug Dropbox at least. I mean, because I've been syncing my iTunes with Dropbox. I also have my music on Google Music and Amazon, so it's everywhere. But in terms of like, if I want to share anything, because Dropbox just gives you those public share links in all your folders now. If you're willing to pay to sync your music with Dropbox, it makes it really easy to actually just send music to people that way.
Yeah.
You're not gonna. Well, I mean, I guess technically you could burn a CD because it's on your computer, and you can access it remotely really easily. So I don't know. It's a good option for me. It's not for everybody. But
honestly, I don't think you even really need to sync your music. When I want to share stuff with friends, I just drag it into my Dropbox as a zip file and get a public link. Which if you're if you're downloading from Google Music, you can download that full album or whatever, throw it into Dropbox, and you're.
I think you have like a 5 download limit for what it's worth.
Oh really?
Google Music limits it.
Well, unless you're sharing your music with like tens or hundreds of people, which you probably shouldn't do.
I will say though that like personally, as someone who uses Rdio, and before when I was using Spotify and trying to do that a lot, this is the biggest sticking point for me. Like it's the thing I run into most often, and the same if I were using just Google Music. It is the thing I run into most often where it's like, I want to share something with like this friend. He doesn't use Rdio.
Yeah.
How then do I have to like go like download the songs elsewhere? Do I like then I'm like, am I gonna buy this? Am I gonna pirate it? But it's like just because I want to share with one person. So it's a tough spot, and there aren't really any good solutions yet.
So many people are on Spotify these days with the Facebook push. I find that more of my friends who are not like tech geeks or anything are on Spotify and like sending me stuff. And so if you're going to use a service like Spotify is a pretty good one, you probably have a pretty big group of friends who is on it.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, sorry we don't have a better answer for you, but it's just sort of like the way it is right now. Burning CDs, it remains to be a very effective way to share playlists with people. Our last question comes from another caller.
Hi, Lifehacker. Would you please explain how uTorrent works? what exactly is the function of the DAT file that I sometimes see in with my completed downloads? And I noticed that when uTorrent sometimes downloads small parts of files that I tell it not to download. Could you please explain that too? Also, while y'all are on the subject, what are your favorite BitTorrent clients? Thanks, guys. I love the show.
Okay. Let's see if we can. Let's start from the top. Okay.
Well, actually, let's start with our favorite BitTorrent client, just because that's a really easy answer.
Good call.
Favorite BitTorrent client is, I believe, uTorrent on both Mac and Windows.
Yeah.
Is our favorite.
Or actually, technically,
uTorrent. I don't know why I just did it with this, but so, but those are our favorites. But there are a lot of good ones out there, and you can check out our app directory for kind of our full comparison of different clients.
Just go to lifehacker.com/app/BitTorrent. That should bring them all up.
That should bring them all up for Mac, Windows, Linux, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. That said, I know what you're talking about. What happens when you download? It sounds like most of the torrents you're downloading have multiple files, and you're only downloading some of them, because that's where those DAT files show up, and that's when you're going to get some of the files you chose not to download. They're still going to appear in those folders. This is because the way BitTorrent works is that it downloads torrents in pieces, and if your torrent has multiple files, sometimes those pieces will stretch multiple files. So the 10th piece in the torrent will be the end of one file and the beginning of another file. So if you want to download one of those files, it's unfortunately going to have to download part of the file that's still contained within that piece, if that makes sense. The DAT file that's showing up contains the piece of that file that you didn't want to download. It's just kind of separating them, so it doesn't confuse you when you go to extract those files. So I find that sometimes the files still show up. Sometimes they'll say .part, or sometimes it'll just have a file that won't open. And that's just, because it maybe started downloading that file before you told it not to. When you first start downloading the torrent, if you don't click don't download right away, it might have already gotten that piece and created the file for you.
Yeah.
The bottom line is you can pretty much just ignore those files. And when you delete the file from uTorrent, those files will go away. So it's not really a big deal, but that's how everything works.
Cool. All right, that's it for questions today. Let's move on to downloads.
First up, we have Trackpad++, which is
two pluses.
It's a Windows app for running Windows on your Mac. So if you're running Windows on your Mac via Boot Camp or any other dual booting method, this doesn't work with Parallels or VirtualBox or anything. But if you're running Windows on your Mac, if you're dual booting, you'll notice that the trackpad on the MacBooks isn't quite as good as it is in OS X. You don't have all the gestures, the scrolling isn't quite as smooth and whatnot. Trackpad++ kind of adds on and replaces the Boot Camp drivers for that touchpad, gives you 3 and 4 finger gestures, gives you, if you want, the inverted scrolling that Lion and Mountain Lion have. It gives you the momentum scrolling, so you can kind of just flick it and it'll keep going. So it's just a big improvement over Apple's trackpad drivers for Windows.
Are you using that now? Because Whitson boots Windows.
I do. And I haven't been using it a lot because I just reinstalled Windows, so none of my apps are really set up, but my Mac apps are set up, so I haven't been using it a ton, but I do have it installed on there.
Cool. All right.
Well, for OS X, we have lost photos. This is pretty easy to explain in that oftentimes you have photos sent to you in email, or you send photos to other people and they get lost and you want them back at some point. Lost photos connects to your email accounts, and it will help you find those lost photos. So it just puts everything together.
So it just aggregates all of the pictures that go through your email?
Yeah, so you can re-download them and have access to them again. And it's actually not just for OS X, I forgot, it's for Windows too. So, hooray.
That's pretty cool. Okay, next we have Tasker for Android, which is an app we've talked a bunch about on the show. We've talked a bunch about it on the site. But they recently came out with an update that lets you package up your Tasker tasks and download them as apps. So what Tasker does, for those of you that don't know, it essentially automates anything you want on your phone. We've kind of, Alan Henry went over a bunch of the really cool uses for it this week in a feature. You can automatically, last week, you can automatically dim your phone screen at nighttime. You can kind of roll your own Find My Phone when it's lost. Just doing, automatically start up your music app when you plug in headphones.
text your loved one when you leave work.
It's magical how much stuff you can do with this, and you don't really need to know how to code. You just pick different actions from a menu and create this little recipe. What's cool about the new version is that these recipes can now be packaged as separate apps. So we have a link in the show notes to Alan's feature where you can go check out a lot of the cool things you can do with Tasker and download some of those recipe apps for your phone, which is really cool. So check out Tasker and check out all of those separate apps.
Yeah, basically, if you've ever thought, like, I wish that when this happened, my phone would do that, Tasker's the thing. So anyway, that's Tasker.
All right. So next up we have Aphex Xciter, and that's Xciter with an X, not an E, Xciter. And that's for the iPhone, and it will be apparently soon for Android, but not yet. What it does is it makes your music sound better, and it's pretty straightforward in that regard. You basically use it as an alternative music player. You choose a song, and then you say how much you want it to make your music, how much you want it to apply the exciter effect. It's a digital signal processor, that's hard to say, DSP, that tries to, that does a pretty good job. At first, when I was listening to it, I'm like, oh, this sounds good, and then I turned it off, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a big difference. You can listen to it for free. They have a free trial where you can listen to it for, I think, like 15 minutes a day or something, which is kind of crappy. You can upgrade to unlimited listening if you like it for $3, and then they have some other versions, but you should always get the free version because it's cheaper to upgrade through the free version via in-app purchases than it is to buy the pro version in the store. I'm not sure why, but that's the way it is.
Tricksy.
Check it out if you want to. If you want to check, if you want your music to sound a little bit better, or if you have crappy headphones, it will help. The worse it sounds, the worse your headphones are, the more it will probably help.
Cool. Okay, and lastly, this is a really cool Chrome extension called Shortcuts for Gmail. So if you are a Gmail user and you've always wanted to get really good at using Gmail's keyboard shortcuts, of which there are many and which are very useful, but you've never really been able to train yourself to use them, to remind yourself to use them, Shortcuts for Gmail, you install it while you're using Gmail. When you do something like, say, compose a message, so you get your mouse, you go over and you click on the compose button. Shortcuts for Gmail will be like, hey, a little pop-up, and it's like, hey, you can press C. You can do that same thing by pressing C. So basically it monitors what you're doing, and when you're doing something that you could do using a shortcut, it tells you about it. If you go and you click the inbox link, it'll be like, hey, G then I. G then I. So that's basically what it does. It's a cool little app, and yeah, if you've ever wanted to really like hone your Gmail shortcut skills, it is a great one to use.
Cool.
And that's it. That's what we got for this week.
All right.
Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next week.
If you'd like to ask us a question, send an email to tips+asklhshow@lifehacker.com. Alternatively, leave us a message at 347-687-8109. Try to keep your questions to a few sentences or 30 seconds so we can keep the show moving quickly. And thanks for listening, watching, or however else you get this podcast from the internet to your brain. This episode was recorded in Los Angeles, California by the Lifehacker staff and edited into a more consumable form by Kyle J. Norris. We'd also like to thank all the people who contributed images to our podcast to help make it look extra nice.